Chapter 31 You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did you do to my dad? Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Yen She opened Gu Hai's hand and exposed his chest. She found the area below his sternum and pressed her palm downwards. After the first press, Gu Hai did not react. The artery on his neck remained motionless. Yen She frowned and continued pressing. However, the artery still did not throb, and the breathing in his nose became weaker. She took a deep breath and used more force than before. The door was suddenly kicked open. Someone grabbed her wrist with one hand and said angrily, "What are you doing?" A sharp female voice followed suit. "Gu Cheng, kick her out. If anything happens to Dad, I will definitely kill you." Being stopped in the middle of first aid, Yen She was extremely anxious. She struggled to break free from the man, but his grip was too tight. The grip was so great that it almost crushed her bones. "Let go of me." Yen She turned around and glared at him. "If you don't want him to die, let go of me." Gu Cheng narrowed his eyes and examined Yen She. After a few seconds, he let go of her. Yen She continued to press on her heart and finally saw Gu Hai's neck throbbing slightly. She heaved a sigh of relief and sat on the ground, exhausted. Gu Cheng wanted to check the situation, but he heard her berate, "All of you, don't move. Move aside and leave a quiet and spacious space." It wasn't long before Gu Hai's complexion returned to normal, and the breath that came out of his nose became much heavier. The emergency doctor that the butler had called over arrived quickly. They took out their instruments and swiftly tested Gu Hai's heartbeat and pulse. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, they quickly carried him to the small hospital in the backyard. Diovi Ko, for the sake of taking care of old Master Gu and the safety of the Gu family, the large piece of empty land in the backyard of the manor had been converted into a private hospital a few years ago. The hospital only served the Gu family. Inside were the most expensive instruments and doctors hired from overseas. Yen She stood up as well. She wanted to follow the doctor, trying to understand his condition. However, just when she took a step forward, her hand was grabbed by someone. Stunned, she turned around. Before she could react, Gu Ling's slap landed on her face. The sound resounded in the room. Yen She was trying to save the old man with all her might, so when she finished giving him first aid, she was completely exhausted. When the slap landed on her face, she lost her balance and fell to the ground, hardly able to get back on her feet. "Yen She. What did you do? How did my dad become like this?" Though Yen She heard the questions loud and clear, she had no extra energy to answer any of them. This slap made her dizzy and her mouth reeked of blood. Seeing that she remained quiet, Gu Ling was emboldened and raised her hand again. "Put it down." Gu Shen was pushed in by someone. His gaze landed on Yen She and his heart ached as he saw the red and swollen marks on her face. He gripped the wheelchair tightly. For the first time, he hated himself for not being able to walk. If he could walk, he would now be standing in front of Yen She, protecting her instead of leaving her to face everything alone. Seeing that something was wrong, Gu Lin's eldest daughter grabbed her hand. She lowered her voice. "Mom, calm down. Grandpa isn't awake yet. Don't make things too ugly." "How am I supposed to calm down?" Gu Lingji glared at Yen She. "This B***tch made my father unconscious and you want me to calm down." Chapter 32 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Apologize to her translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Grandpa was in a coma because of heart disease. He is old, so his heart is in bad condition. The sudden shock was probably due to insufficient blood supply. Yen She explained. Her voice was very soft, but it was not to be ignored. Gu Ling snorted, "I doubt it. Who knows if it's because you said something to agitate father. We didn't say much, nor was it agitating. If you don't believe me, you can ask Grandpa when he wakes up. Yen Shi tried her best to remain calm, but her hands were trembling uncontrollably. Her hand was suddenly held by a cold hand. Yen Shi shivered and looked down. It was Gu Shen. He was also looking at Yen Shi. Underneath that pair of angry eyes, Yen Shi could see self-blame and guilt. I'm fine. She smiled. He tightened his grip on her hand. Gu Shen closed his eyes and said in a deep voice, Gu Yi, bring the chair over. Yes. Guan also took the ice pack and placed it on Yen Shi's face. The painful and numb sensation was then gone. Auntie. Guan sounded displeased. You hit her before knowing what is actually happening. That's too much. Gu Ling did not reflect on herself and instead felt wronged. She is making that up. Now that father is still unconscious, she can say whatever she wants. As if to refute Gu Ling, the butler stepped forward. Old master is safe now. It happened so suddenly, but fortunately, fourth madam was here to give first aid. If he received it a few minutes later, he did not finish his sentence, but everyone understood what he meant. The butler walked to Yen Shi's side and bowed. Thank you. You don't have to do this. Yen Shi was a little clumsy. She wanted to stand up. Gu Shen held her down and asked, how is Grandpa now? Old master is currently not in danger. The other doctors are still diagnosing him. Okay. His words forebode something bad was gonna happen, making people inexplicably afraid. Gu Yi closed the door. As the door was slammed, the world was divided into two. Gu Ling gulped and looked at Gu Shen. Gu Shen said very slowly, it is clear now that grandfather had a sudden shock and it has nothing to do with Cece. He's safe now because she saved him. He paused, his eyes cold and murderous. So, those who treated she unfairly just now, apologized to her. Gu Qing hesitated for a moment. He had always been proud and arrogant, never lowering his head to anyone, let alone admitting his mistake. However, he indeed treated Yen Shi, who saved his grandfather, unfairly this time, so it was only right for him to apologize. After thinking it through, he said frankly, I'm sorry, Yen Shi. I was too anxious just now and offended you. He didn't think it was a big deal to apologize, but the people standing around were stunned. Having lived in the Gu family for so many years, they never saw Gu Qing apologize to anyone. This was the grandson that old Master Gu valued the most, who was most likely to take over the Gu family in the future. When did Gu Shen become so influential? It's all right. Yen Shi said, I understand it. Seeing Gu Cheng's apology, Gu Ling pursed her lips in disdain. She would not bring herself to apologize to someone who was lower in status. She turned around and was about to leave and a cold male voice sounded behind her. His words were full of threat. If you step out of this door today, you can forget about entering the Gu family's door in the future. Chapter 33 You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'll apologize to you for her translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Gu Ling was stunned for a moment. She felt that Gu Shen's words were ridiculous, but at the same time, she felt that they were somehow credible. However, Gu Shen was remembered by her only as someone who was incapable and had no ambition, so after a moment of panic, Gu Ling became bold again. Are you trying to rescue the damsel in distress? Those who don't know might think that this nephew of mine is the head of the Gu family. Asking me to apologize to her. Do you really think you can make me do that? Gu Shen's eyes were dark and deep and there was no obvious emotion. You can try. Either apologize or get out of the Gu family. His cold words made everyone tremble. They felt an unprecedented feeling of unease. Gu Ling's daughter sensed that something was wrong and smiled, fourth brother, we are family, you don't have to be so serious. My mother was just a little anxious and did not have any bad intentions. I apologize on behalf of her and fourth sister. In law. It came from her mouth, so it should be her who makes the apology. It is absurd to ask a senior to apologize to a junior. Gu Ling glared at her daughter, despising her for taking matters into her own hands. Besides, I didn't hit her for no reason. It was all because something happened to my dad while he was talking to her, Guan harumphed. Since you already know that it is a misunderstanding, why are you still not apologizing? Gu Ling was at a loss for words. She could not think of an excuse. There was a rush of footsteps outside the door, and then the front door was slammed open. When Gu Ling saw who it was, her eyes lit up. However, before she could say anything, she was slapped on the face. Compared to hers, his slap was much, much stronger. Guan was surprised by how ruthless her uncle was. Apologize to Yan Shi. Song Li said through gritted teeth. Gu Ling was stunned. Before she could react, she saw Song Li bowing to Gu Shen in a very humble manner. I'm very sorry. I apologize on behalf of my wife. I hope to receive your forgiveness. When he bent over, Song Li's hands were still trembling. He had just found out that this unremarkable fourth master of the Gu family was actually the president of Wansheng. The Song family and Wansheng had just settled a big business deal in which they invested pretty much all their cash. If Wansheng cancelled the project, the Song family would end up, in the best scenario, losing a large sum of money. Although Wansheng would suffer a huge loss too, Song Li did not dare to take the risk when he saw Gu Shen's fearless look. This time, not only was Gu Ling stunned but the rest of the people were also stunned. Although the Song family was not as powerful as the Gu family, he, as the first master of the Song family, should be much more powerful than Gu Shen. It was to everyone's surprise that he would apologize to Gu Shen in front of so many people. Wrong. Gu Shen's tone was cold. You should apologize to my wife. Song Li did not care about his face and bowed to Yan Shi again. I'm sorry, fourth madam. I hope you can forgive us. Looking at Gu Shen's mocking expression, Gu Ling went black, overwhelmed by shame and humiliation. She felt like she was a joke now, and her whole family was a joke. She couldn't take it anymore. She gritted her teeth and ran out. The elder daughter was worried that something would happen and followed closely behind. Song Li also took the opportunity to say, I'm really sorry. Gu Ling is quite bad-tempered and gets into trouble easily. I'll go calm her down first. In a few days, I'll definitely bring her to apologize in person. Gu Shen raised his eyebrows. He did not agree or disagree. Without his permission, Song Li did not dare to move and stood rooted to the ground. Yan Shi reached out and tugged Gu Shen's sleeve. Let's leave it at that. If this continued, it might not end well. Gu Shen nodded nonchalantly. Upon receiving the order, Song Li hurriedly went out. Chapter 34. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Don't Cry Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. The people in the study room had already dispersed. Gu Qing dragged Guan upstairs. He frowned, his expression solemn. What happened to Gu Shen? Guan shrugged her shoulder. I'm not sure either, but fourth brother was very scary. What about Yan Shi? Gu Qing had heard something about her from others who said she was a gloomy, childish, and inferior person. However, when he saw her today, she struck him as a totally different person. Fourth sister. Law. Guan propped up her face. She has indeed changed a lot. I'm starting to like her. Gu Qing pinched her face. Find out why they changed so much. Let go of me. Guan shook his hand off her face, wanting to hit him. It's because you always pinch my face so it gets puffier than before. How am I going to appear in films in the future? Gu Qing chuckled. I will wait and see when you will get your first film. Alright, I'll go check in on Grandpa first. I gotta go on business tomorrow, so I need to leave early. You're always on the go. Guan pouted. I'll go with you to see Grandpa. Yan Shi's face and slightly swollen face recovered a little bit, but when she touched it, there was still a stinging pain, as if someone was stabbing her with a needle. Does it still hurt? Gu Shen got a new ice bag and covered the swollen area carefully. Gu Yi has already gone to get the ointment. It'll be fine in a while. Yeah. Looking at Gu Shen, though he had helped her seek revenge, Yan Shi still felt aggrieved. All of a sudden, tears welled up in her eyes. Gu Shen was stunned. He wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. Don't cry anymore. Her voice was gentle. You can return that slap in a few days. The nicer he treated her, the more Yan Shi wanted to cry. She sniffed and said, then it'll also hurt to hit her back. Gu Shen laughed. Then I'll let her do it herself. Don't cry. After being comforted by Gu Shen for a while, Yan Shi finally calmed down. When she thought of what happened earlier, she felt a little embarrassed. Don't force them into a corner. It's not good for you. They don't have that kind of ability. Gu Shen rubbed her head, his eyes unfathomable. If they want to do anything to you, then don't blame me for paying them back tenfold or 100-fold. In the hospital, old Master Gu had already woken up and was listening to the butler's report on what had just happened. Gu Ling has been getting more and more arrogant these past few years. Gu Hai did not even consider that she was his daughter. Find out a couple nasty things she did in the past and threaten her to behave herself. The butler replied, yes. If it wasn't for Yan Shi this time, I'm afraid that I would already be in a coffin. Old Master Gu sighed. Go prepare a bank card and send it to her tomorrow. The butler naturally agreed. He asked again, only a bank card? Did she win you over? Gu Hai scolded jokingly. Also give her that whatever media company I invested in a few days ago. Old Master Gu was sick and Gu Ling caused such a huge commotion. Everyone was afraid of being implicated and found an excuse to leave. Now only Gu Shen's first uncle and his family were left in the main hall. The family banquet turned out as it was supposed to be. Gu Shen's first uncle was a decent man and had a good relationship with his father back then. Back at the dining table, he was constantly asking them questions, concerned about the two of them. Yan Shi, are you all right now? Yan Shi smiled. Yes. That's good. Gu Ling is getting weirder and grumpier the older she gets. He did not say that Gu Shen had done anything wrong. He only told them to be careful. Although Gu Shen did not say much to him, he looked much more at ease with his first uncle than with anyone else, and it was obvious that he respected him a lot. Yan Shi thought to herself, no wonder Guan could become the little angel in the book. It must be because of the upbringing she received from this uncle. Chapter 35 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Koi Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Old Master Gu was sick. As his biological grandson, Gu Shen could not leave that night, he stayed with Yan Shi for the night. Since the two of them were married, it was only natural for them to be in the same room. Yan Shi looked at the big bed in the room and was actually a little nervous. This is the room I used to live in, Gu Shen explained. There are too many people in the house right now, so we'll have to make do with one bedroom. It's fine. Yan Shi comforted herself. Sooner or later, this day will come. She thought to herself but said it out loud unconsciously. Gu Shen's gaze changed. Is that what you think? No, I didn't. You're mistaken. It was still early and Yan Shi had no intention of sleeping. She just stood by the bed aimlessly and looked at the manor. Do you want to go down and take a look? Gu Shen asked. Will you join me? Yeah. The Gu family's manor was very big. There were all kinds of flowers all around the road. Under the illumination of the lights, they revealed different shapes from the daytime. These flowers were planted by Grandma back then, Gu Shen explained for the first time. After she passed away, Grandpa also sent people to take care of these flowers, just like when she was still alive. Yen Shi naturally knew about this matter. Gu Hai was rigid and stubborn because he gave all his tenderness to his wife. The writer used around 1,000 words to describe the love between him and his wife. But I don't like flowers, Yen Shi said. I don't even know what I can leave you with. You don't have to leave me anything, as long as you are by my side. Yen Shi followed her memory of the book and pushed Gu Shen to the koi pond. There was still fish food placed at the side for passers-by to feed. It must be because of the many things that happened this evening that there was still a full bucket of fish food left in it. Yen Shi grabbed a handful with interest and sprinkled it into the water. The fish started to swarm up, their beautiful scales streaking across the water like ribbons of various colors. It was very spectacular. Yen Shi liked fish. They were delicious and could be dissected, but she had never dissected a koi before. She thought as she sprinkled another handful of fish food. Have you ever eaten koi? Gu Shen said in a roundabout manner, these are quite expensive. The cheapest one costs more than 300,000 yuan. The one right there is the most expensive one, Lu Lan. It costs 10 million yuan. Yen Shi instantly dispelled that thought. This time, she grabbed more fish food and her expression became soft. Eat more, eat more. Yen Shi was tired after feeding the fish, so she sat on a rock by the pond. Gu Shen lowered his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking about. After a while, he suddenly said, if you really want to eat, you can. I'll get Gu Yi to buy one that costs a few million yuan tomorrow. I don't want to eat it. Yen Shi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was just casually asking. You don't have to take it to heart. Gu Shen responded with an By the way, I remember that koi can make wishes. I turned to koi many times before my exams and I actually got pretty decent marks. If you have any wishes, I can help you fulfill them. That won't do. Yen Shi closed her eyes and clasped her hands together. Her expression was devout. As a gentle breeze blew past her, the hair on her forehead floated up. Looking at her, Gu Shen felt at ease and looked very gentle. After Yen Shi opened her eyes, she sprinkled some fish food in the pond. Everyone, eat well and make my wish come true. What did you wish for? It won't work if I say it. Anyway, it's related to you. Gu Shen felt very happy. I think I know what it is. Chapter 36 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Script translator. Henyi Translations editor. Henyi Translations. The two of them entered through the west door. Guan was the only one in the living room. She sat cross-legged on the sofa, surrounded by scattered documents. When she saw Yen Shi, she waved. Fourth sister. Law, can you do me a favor? It's something very important. Yen Shi looked at Gu Shen and told him to let the maid send him back to his room before she sat beside Guan. What is it? Guan collected the documents around her and shoved them at Yen Shi. I remember that you studied Chinese in university. These are the scripts that the company sent over. Help me choose. Yen Shi scanned through them and realized that they were just some brainless silly drama scripts. She frowned and put them down. Do you like these scripts? Guan told her the truth. I don't like it. The female lead in them is too silly. She doesn't have any brains and is always at the mercy of men. While listening to that, Yen Shi thought to herself, well, you are no different from these female leads. Ever since Guan met the male lead of this book, she fell in deep love with him. Guan didn't know what Yen Shi was thinking. She continued, I want to look at other scripts, but they only sent me these. I can only choose one out of them. In the beginning, Guan had been criticized because she was always playing silly roles. Even if she had the acting skills and ability, she had failed repeatedly. She was even mocked for using her resources to get these roles. In the end, her reputation improved because she played a vicious female supporting role, Hua Rong. Hua Rong was heartbroken, and her love was turned into hatred. Her entire family was cruelly murdered by a heartless man. The heartless man took the opportunity to get rich and support his family. Coincidentally, this heartless man was the female protagonist's brother. In order to take revenge for her family, Hua Rong had been secretly plotting for many years, trying to kill the heartless man and his family to take revenge. Every time she was about to succeed, she would be ruined by the female protagonist or her admirers. At the end of the drama, Hua Rong was surrounded by people. She hugged the female protagonist's brother and jumped down from the cliff. The female protagonist also found out what had happened. After a short period of guilt, she threw this matter to the back of her mind and happily lived with the male protagonist. After this drama was broadcasted, the female lead role was criticized for being too saintly. On the other hand, Hua Rong, the vicious supporting actress who had always opposed the female lead, was loved by everyone. After this drama was broadcasted, it even created a trend of vicious supporting actresses becoming the female lead. Guan also made a beautiful comeback with this drama. The stunning scene of her jumping off a cliff will appear in various editing videos many years later. She still remembered that this drama was called The Duchess of Zhen. She looked at the scripts again and actually found this script. How about this one? I saw it just now. This female lead is too kind. I don't like it. I'm not talking about the female lead. You can consider the supporting role instead. She is more interesting than the female lead. Guan was a little hesitant. Will such a vicious supporting role leave a bad impression on the audience? The most important thing now is to leave an impression on the audience. Only then will you have the right to choose more scripts and change this image. Otherwise, you will have to deal with these silly scripts for the rest of your life. Guan was persuaded. Fourth sister. Law, you're right. You are the only one who cares about me. My brothers and the rest will only mock me. Chapter 37. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's not chewing gum translator. Henyi Translations editor. Henyi Translations. She smiled. I'm just giving you some suggestions. Whether you want to act or not depends on yourself. As the female lead in this book, Guan had her own way of doing things. Just like her career, no matter how it developed, she would ultimately become an international movie queen. Hence, under the influence of the protagonist aura, every one of Guan's films would become popular after The Duchess of Zhen. An idea suddenly struck Shi that if she invested in her, she would be rich in no time. She looked at Guan with a burning gaze as if looking at a treasure chest. Guan did not know what Shi was thinking. She held Shi's hand and said in an intimate tone, I'll consider it seriously. Fourth sister. Law, you're really good. Shi felt slightly guilty because she was only thinking about money. She returned to the room upstairs and opened the door. The first thing she saw was Gu Shen lying on the bed. He had already changed into his pajamas and was handling some matters on the bed with a tablet. He looked much gentler than before. When Gu Shen saw Shi enter, he put down the tablet and asked casually, what did Guan talk to you about? Nothing much, she just asked me to help her choose a script. I took a look and realized that there's a role that suits her quite well. Gu Shen sounded a little helpless. Her acting skills are not good. She can't handle the role she wants to act. He still remembered that when Guan's first television drama was aired, she would call him every 2 to 3 days to urge him to watch it. She even requested for him to write a 500-word review. Gu Shen, on the other hand, was stunned by her awful acting and never invested in her ever again. She refuted him, Guan is still young, so it's fine if her acting skills are not terrific. It is also because she didn't choose the right roles. Don't say that about her. Hearing Shi defend others, Gu Shen was unhappy and snorted. You know her pretty well. Of course. Guan was the female lead and even became the movie queen in the end. Other things aside, her acting skills were definitely not bad. Gu Shen became even more unhappy. He pursed his lips and changed the topic. Come here, let me see your face. Ah. The topic suddenly changed. Yan Shi was stunned for a moment. She sat beside Gu Shen and leaned her cheek closer to him. She mumbled, "It should be fine. It doesn't hurt anymore. Don't move." Gu Shen pinched Yan Shi's chin, gasping at the smoothness of her skin. As he spoke, a warm breath floated into Yan Shi's ear. She suddenly felt numb and froze, not daring to move. In a place where Yan Shi could not see, Gu Shen's eyes were dark and deep, carrying an unreadable emotion. After a while, he let go of Yan Shi. Indeed, much better. Yan Shi frantically hummed in agreement. Her gaze drifted around and finally landed on the small cube beside the bed. She picked it up and looked around. Who left the chewing gum here? Did you put it here? That's not chewing gum. Gu Shen looked at her with a strange expression. If it's not chewing gum, what is it? Yan Shi flipped through it even more carefully. She saw a line of small English words below and raised it to her eyes. The thing was suddenly thrown onto the floor. Yan Shi's face was red as she complained, "Who is so perverted as to put such a thing in the room? And even deliberately placed it at the bedside." Gu Shen chuckled. "It's normal for us to have such things in the room." I didn't mean that." Yan Shi was incoherent. "You don't have to worry. Even if there's really something, I'll be responsible." Chapter 38. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aesthetic Taste of Straight Men Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. What nonsense was she talking about? Yan Shi felt that she was about to burn up. Before Gu Shen could say anything, she took her clothes and rushed into the bathroom. "I'll shower first." Gu Shen looked at her back and smiled. Yan Shi dawdled for a long time before she came out. Her expression had returned to normal, but her heart was still unable to calm down. Staring at the big bed under Gu Shen, Yan Shi finally realized that they were going to sleep on the same bed tonight. The redness that had just subsided surged up again. After all, she had never slept on the same bed with a man before, and the first time was with a handsome man like Gu Shen who was extremely close to her ideal type. Yan Shi touched her nose, thinking to herself, "Will I roll onto Gu Shen in the middle of the night? Why are you standing there?" Gu Shen teased. "Why is your face so red?" "No, I am just..." Yan Shi found an excuse. "It's just a little hot and the bathroom is a little stuffy." The smile in Gu Shen's eyes deepened. "Got it. Time to sleep." Oh. Before she hopped in bed, someone knocked on the door again. Yan Shi went to open it. The servant standing outside the door picked up the bag and handed it over respectfully. "Fourth madam, this is what second master sent to you as an apology. He hopes that you won't take offense to what he did to you today." Yan Shi was a little surprised. Gu Cheng, who was known to be a stubborn guy and never apologized to anyone, would actually make an apology to her. After thanking the servant, Yan Shi took the bag in and opened it. Inside was a tube of ointment and a lipstick gift box. "Second master actually gave me a gift." Yan Shi sounded surprised as she placed the things on the bedside table. Gu Shen glanced at her. He was in the wrong today, so he is supposed to make an apology one way or another. It's normal for others to do so but not for second master. Yan Shi said as she opened the gift box. Inside were 10 different types of lipstick from big brands. She opened one excitedly and her smile froze when she saw it clearly. In front of her was a bright pink lipstick with tiny glitter. It was even more gorgeous than the crystal ball she'd seen as a child. But if it was used on the lips, it would be a disaster. Second master's taste was really unique. She opened another one. It was an even brighter pink color. She didn't believe it and opened the remaining ones. There were now 10 pink lipsticks lining up on the table, each one brighter than the last. One of them was even covered in pink diamonds. She said helplessly, "There is no way that second master has a girlfriend." No, Gushin thought about it. I think there was one a few years ago, but they broke up for some reason. Good breakup. She looked a little dazed. Who doesn't break up when they see these pink lipstick? Gushin's gaze landed on the row of lipstick and he looked slightly puzzled, thinking to himself, aren't these pretty? She flipped through the pink lipstick even more and almost forgot about the ointment. It was Gushin who picked it up. He looked at the instruction manual seriously before unscrewing the bottle and squeezing out some cotton swabs. Come and try the ointment. She recalled the awkward scene earlier and blushed. It's alright, I'm already fine. Gushin's tone was firm. He repeated, come here. Then be gentle and just use a little bit of it. Gushin raised his hand and rubbed his fingers against Shi's cheek. Okay, got it. Shi felt the touch and panicked. You. Be careful. Chapter 39. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Eggs Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. After applying the ointment, Shi lay on the bed. The bed was not small. Both of them were lying on it, and there was still space between them. She moved to the side and moved further away from Gushin. She was slightly exhausted from so many things that happened today. She yawned. Good night, Gushin. The instant she finished saying it, she fell asleep. Gushin murmured, good night. It was also Gushin's first time sleeping on the same bed with someone else. However, he didn't reject it. Instead, he secretly rejoiced. After a long time, Gushin's eyes were still wide open. As he turned sideways, he saw Shi's fair skin. Her undulating waist under the thin blanket was shallow and her breath was light. After staring at her for a while, Shi suddenly turned around and got closer to him. She was so close that Gushin could put his hand on her waist. Gushin reached out his hand uncontrollably, but it froze in midair. He looked down between his legs and said in a frustrated tone, damn it, why are you up again? Lying on the same bed with Gushin, Shi thought that she would not be able to sleep well, but she slept very soundly. When she opened her eyes again, it was already 7 o'clock. Gushin was not in the room. Shi changed her clothes and went downstairs after washing up. There were already many people seated at the dining table. On the main seat, there was old Master Gu. His face was slightly pale, but he was in good spirits. When he saw Shi, the corners of his mouth curled into a rare smile. "Lo, come and eat." He smiled kindly. "If there's anything you want to eat, just tell the kitchen to prepare it. Make yourself at home." This special treatment caught Shi off guard. "Thank you." Shi revealed an obedient smile. "These are enough. There's no need to trouble the kitchen to make more. Do you want some porridge? I'll get you a bowl." "Yes, please." Old Master Gu's tone was light. "Bring me more fried dough sticks as well." Shi paused and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Grandfather, the fried dough sticks are too greasy and they're bad for your health. Should I get you an egg?" As soon as she finished speaking, the few people at the table looked a little shocked. Guan shot her a look, wanting Shi to take back her words. Gu Qing coughed as well, looking at her and shaking his head slightly. Shi realized that she had said something wrong. With Gu Hai's personality, he would never allow others to refute him. She was just in time to explain when Gu Hai spoke first. "Fine, for Shi's sake, I'll eat healthy today. Pass me an egg." Shi swiftly peeled the egg for him and heard old Master Gu's cranky voice again. "It's just that this egg yolk is too choking. Every time I eat it, I'll have a hard time swallowing it." Yes, this is a little hard to swallow. Yen Shi agreed, then changed the topic. Then I'll break it and put it in the porridge. That way, it'll be easier to swallow and the taste will be better. Old Master Gu was much more straightforward this time. Sure. Guan secretly gave Yen Shi a thumbs up. She really did not expect that after Grandma passed away, someone could persuade Grandpa to eat healthily. Her fourth sister Law had brought more surprises than she had expected. Yen Shi peeled another egg for Old Master Gu and one for Gu Shen as well. He glanced at her and opened his mouth to bite the egg while it was still in her hand. What are you doing? Yen Shi retracted her hand and asked in a low voice. Gu Shen said matter-of-factly, I think yolk is choking, too. You are not making it less choking to eat it like that. Yes, I am. Yen Shi didn't understand what Gu Shen was thinking. She looked up and saw Guan looking at them excitedly. Wow. You two look really lovey-dovey. Chapter 40. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stingy Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Before leaving the Gu Manor, the butler sent her a red packet and document. Fourth Madam, this is the pocket money Master gave you. Yen Shi was in need of money. She took the red packet and documents. Help me thank Grandfather. The butler smiled and said, You're too polite. We should be the ones thanking you this time. If you weren't in the room, no one knew what could have happened. The butler had thanked her many times and she could tell that he was really scared. It's not a big deal. If you're worried about Old Master, you can arrange for people to accompany him in the future and let them learn about first aid. The butler nodded immediately. Okay. Sitting in the car, Yen Shi impatiently opened the red packet. Inside was a bank card. She didn't know how much it was, but it should be quite a lot. She carefully put the bank card away and opened the document. It was actually a transfer of shares. Gu Hai gave 60% of Taishin Entertainment Media's shares to Yen Shi, which meant that she would become the biggest shareholder of this company. Yen Shi was about to invest in an entertainment business when this company was sent to her. Grandfather gave me a company. Yen Shi said excitedly. Gu Shen took the document and carefully read the terms on it. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he returned it to Yen Shi. You saved his life, so it's not a lot to give you these things. Back then, the old man was shot in the chest but he survived. Shot in the chest. Yen Shi felt pain when she heard that. It's a difficult job to take bullets out of the chest. It's still in his chest. What? He didn't take the bullet out, Gu Shen explained. It's still in his chest. Back then, the medical conditions were poor and no one could take it out. Now, no one dares to take it out either. Yen Shi frowned. This will cause a lot of trouble. What can you do? Yen Shi did not continue asking and just sighed. She knew how uncomfortable it would be to have a foreign object in your body, not to mention it was in the chest. Gu Hai must have suffered a lot to live to this day. Yen Shi was still immersed in her admiration for Old Master Gu when she suddenly felt a force on her hand. She looked down and realized that Gu Shen was pulling her red packet. What are you doing? She hugged red packet to her chest and glared at Gu Shen like a hamster protecting its food. Gu Shen tooted. So stingy. I gave you 5 million but you're not even willing to give me 1 million. Yen Shi laughed awkwardly. She tugged at Gu Shen's sleeve and shook it gently. Her voice was sweet and soft. Next time, I still have some use for this money. When I earn some money, I'll give you some pocket money. You want to give me pocket money? Gu Shen laughed, his deep voice echoing in Yen Shi's ears. Stingy girl, I'll let you off this time. Yen Shi smiled too. The dimples at the corner of her lips were very cute. Don't worry, I'll definitely earn a lot of money. When the time comes, I'll use it all on you. For some reason, Gu Shen felt that she was talking about curing his legs. Before he could ask more, the car braked suddenly. She was caught off guard and fell into Gu Shen's arms. Gu Shen hugged her and asked with a frown, "Gu Yi, what happened?" The partition was rolled down. Gu Yi sounded very anxious. The veins on his hands on the steering wheel were bulging. "President Gu, there are a few cars following us." The car at the front just showed a gun. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a bang on the roof of the car. Someone had fired a shot. She froze on the spot and was a little afraid. She had seen gunfights in movies, but this time, she was involved in a real one. Gu Shen felt her fear and hugged She tightly. "Don't be afraid, I'm here."